The following program was produced by Cinema Milkshake.
What would you like to do now?
Go to the movies.
Now you're talking. I could be up for that.
So what have you got?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
What did you think?
It's the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
You're going to love this.
No, sir. I didn't like it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
This whole thing's a bloody farce.
Good movie. It won the Academy Award
Oh, for what?
for best movie ever made.
Oh, it's Keen. It's pure Keen. No, it's greater than Keen. It's Cougat.
Why are you torturing me like this?
You're gonna love this, trust me.
I've lost all critical perspective.
Why?
Did you like that?
Are you kidding?
Let's all go to the movie.
Woo-hoo!
That's what I'm talking about.
What do we got?
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Kill Me or Thrill Me. I'm your host, Ryan, and this is the podcast where I invite various people to recommend various movies to me that I've never seen before. And then once I watch them, they come on the show and talk about them with me. And we find out if their selection or their suggestion killed me or thrilled me. My guest today is not only a huge movie buff, he actually makes money making movies. And he is an assistant director and a producer in both the film and commercial production worlds. And as someone who has had the privilege of working with him on a couple of productions, I can personally attest to his commitment and professionalism. I've actually learned quite a bit from this guy, and if I ever get to make a movie again, I'll get to apply some of that knowledge to it. But if I don't, then I've still learned a valuable lesson about, you know what, folks, it's not always about the director and the stars. It's the people behind the camera that are running the thing for real, because I would have been lost with this guy on a couple of movies. So I probably learned more from him than I did in 4 years of film school. Nate Robertson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for that kind introduction.
Yeah, hire him, people. You know, I did. I loved working with you, and even at times when you probably wanted to strangle me because I, was, no, we're gonna get this one more shot, and we're like, Ryan, we're 3 hours over schedule, and I did. I learned an absolute shit ton of things from you that I just never realized went into actually producing a movie. And I'm just like, holy shit, man, I better up my game. So anyway, Nate, you and I go a little ways back. I think we met at a TV station we both worked at.
Yes. Yeah.
Centuries ago, I feel like at this point.
Yeah, a little while.
From what I understand, all of our jobs have now been replaced by robots and or video game controllers that they just... maybe not yours, because you were like a actual floor director, and I don't know if they have a machine that can point to a camera yet. Or
I think most of the jobs that I did there have been largely automated. I did a few over the years that I worked there, but I think only one or two are still done by humans. Much younger humans that they pay a lot less now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Do you think they've invented a robot yet that can do the wrap it up or stretch motions that floor directors always do, or do you think that's always going to be a human job?
I think they probably don't waste time on having it actually be able to do the gestures. They could just have a screen. But yeah, I think that's been replaced.
Man, really? I'm not happy about that, but I don't work there anymore, so I guess it doesn't matter. All right, Nate. Well, before we get any further, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and talk a little bit about what you do for a living?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I work as an assistant director and producer in film and in commercial production as a general blanket term. And an assistant director is something that people don't know, have never heard of, unless they, are somehow affiliated with the movie industry. They think I'm an assistant who does laundry and gets coffee, for the director perhaps, or something like that. But there is an actual position that does those things. That's a director's assistant.
Right.
And a lot of people do get their start being director's assistants, and that's a great way to, began in the movie industry as well. It's just not what I do. What I do as an assistant director is primarily two things. I schedule the movie is the first thing I do. So when I receive a script that's going to be made into a movie, I'm told by the producers, the people who have the money, they're like, oh, we have this much money. That means we can shoot. We can shoot for this many days, be that, 12 days, be that a month, be that 5 months. And they're like, here's the script. You tell us, you come up with a schedule. What do we shoot when? How do we get this movie made? And all the little, details within that. We need horses on this day. We need, extra, we need special effects crew on this day, things like that. All those, it's putting together a puzzle where each piece is also a puzzle kind of, but I create the schedule first, and that's done in preparing for the movie, which is, several weeks, or it can be different amounts of time for different size projects, but you do that before you start shooting ever. And then once you start shooting the movie, the production phase of the movie, I run the set is what it's called. And I basically make sure, like I'm like a foreman of like a construction crew is a good metaphor, whereas like I am the person who is directing all of the crew through the individual department heads, for grip and electric department, sound, makeup, everything, we all collaborate, but I'm the top of the, the hierarchy as far as communication. I need to let those people know, and they let the people, in their teams know, but I make sure that we accomplish that schedule that I developed and get the movie shot in the amount of time that we have to shoot it. And that's, as a daily thing, a weekly thing, and a overall project thing that we don't go over, because either you if you don't get it done in time, you don't get your whole movie, or you have to spend more money, depending on which is the option. If you have money, then you got to spend more money, and you'll be in trouble with the higher ups. And if you don't have money, then maybe that means you don't get everything shot, which is a big problem. And sometimes you can work around that creatively, but that's never happened on anything that I've worked on, thankfully. So, and then once you have all those pieces, shot, if I've done my job successfully, then they take it and edit it into a movie with all those pieces that we created, during production.
Yeah, absolutely vital part of the filmmaking process. Like I said, my whole view of filmmaking it changed, because again, the ADs I worked with before you, they were not professional ADs. They knew the job and were kind of just doing it as a favor, even though they were better suited to something else. And we had like maybe 3 crew members, so everybody had to do a couple things. But then when I got the chance to work with you, because you assembled more than I even deserved, for the short film we were trying to make as a proof of concept short for a feature that unfortunately never today, as of to now, has never seen the light of day. It may. The screenplay is floating around out there. But anyway, that changed my whole approach because of what you taught me about that. And yeah, when you finally work with somebody on a movie as in a directing capacity and have a good assistant director, it just completely floors you and kind of makes you want to give up at some points, because you're like, I am nowhere near as professional and prepared as this man. But if you take that and learn from it, then, you can apply that. Now, I wanted to ask you a question about this, because did you know back in the day when the Oscars first got started, they gave Oscars to assistant directors?
I surprisingly did not know that.
Yeah.
I wonder why they got rid of that.
I don't know. And you know how they're always bringing back these categories, or they're trying to get new categories. Like now all of a sudden they're giving away Oscars for stunts at a time when I don't think stunts are as prevalent as they used to be. I mean, they are, but I don't think Jackie Chan's going to get an Oscar that he deserved 40 years ago for all that crazy shit he did. But they should bring back the assistant director Oscar.
Well, I won't disagree with you there. I think they should. I also think that a stunts Oscar is well worth it too. They started one for best casting. I noticed recently too, which I'm not gonna say anyone should be ignored. I mean every department's important, and some of them they do like in a different ceremony, like the technical awards, and I understand that the show is already a long show and they want an audience to watch it. I understand all those things, but I do think that every position is invaluable to the final product, and it takes the whole team, and some positions are more prominent, some positions get more glory, but every position is important, and you couldn't do it without all those people.
Right. I agree. So yeah, it was awarded from 1933 until 1937. And the first several people won the first year. And so
was it called Best Assistant Directing, or was it called something?
It's the Academy Award for Best Assistant Director is what it was called. So the first year was in 1933. And like I said, there's tons of nominees, tons of winners. And then like the very next year, there was only 2 or 3 nominees. Anyway, apparently the last movie to win that award and the last person to win that award was Robert Webb, who was the assistant director on a film called In Old Chicago.
Wow.
So there's your little trivia.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave you kind of a brief, digestible synopsis of what an assistant director does. There's a heck of a lot more to it, but I won't go into depth because that's not what this podcast is about. But those people deserve those Oscars.
They do. I would agree. They deserve them more than us directors, because honestly, we couldn't do any of that shit without any of these people. I don't know why people treat us with such respect and regard when most of us are just trying to make it up as we go along.
Yeah, well, I have reverence for all the positions, and I being an assistant director, am fond of directors. So,
okay,
and especially good directors. Every assistant director wants to work with a good director. And
I imagine, yeah.
And I include you in that in that group. I enjoyed our collaboration as well, and hope we get the chance again in the future.
Yeah, thank you. I would say the same thing. I would love to do it again, because I feel like the last couple of years, or the last 5 years, I've been on the production and distribution side. I've still been writing screenplays. I've been doing a lot of script doctoring, a lot of paid rewrites. So even that has taught me a lot more about being a good director since I've last done it. And I feel like now I would actually be a really good director now that I've learned a lot more. And especially even on the production side, where I've had to make schedules for things. And I did get to direct a wraparound segment for a Christmas movie, sort of Hallmark adjacent Christmas rom-com that they needed to get finished. And they wanted to do a breaking the fourth wall kind of wraparound segment. Actually, that was the idea me and the producer came up with, was to sort of do a wraparound, because they needed like 15 more minutes in order for the movie to be broadcast length. So I got called in to write some scenes, some VO, and I got to direct it. So I got to go direct parts of a film in Brooklyn, New York. So that was a lot of fun. And again, I'm not going to say the name of the movie, but because I have a ghost credit. So you're not going to, I have a producer credit on it, but you won't see me as a writer or director. However, I will say that when I read reviews for it on Letterboxd, my parts are the parts that get mentioned as highlights. So that's all I'm going to say.
That's awesome.
That's all I'm going to say. The movie you brought to me today is Hunt for the Wilderpeople. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But the thing about this movie is it's from New Zealand. Okay. And I have prepared, this is something I like to call Break the Ice. And you get a 2 truths and a lie game today.
Cool.
What I'm going to do is give you 3 facts, in quotes, about New Zealand. 2 of them are the truth and which one is the lie.
Oh, okay.
So here's your first quote-unquote New Zealand fact. New Zealand once tried to train sea lions to guard underwater naval bases. That's your first one.
Okay.
Your second one is, one traditional New Zealand delicacy is fermented bat meat wrapped in seaweed and buried underground for 4 months before it's edible, or before it's served, I should say. That's your second one. Your third one is, in New Zealand, it is illegal to harass penguins, even accidentally.
Wow. Okay. I was thinking I might have a leg up because I've actually been to New Zealand, but I don't know that that's going to help me a ton. I think it helps me in that I can guess at least one truth right off the bat, and I think that it is illegal to harass penguins.
Yep, that one is a true fact.
The other two seem pretty equally preposterous, so I have to kind of do a little calculation on which seems the more, although unlikely, possible. I think I'm going to go with the training the sea lions to do the guarding of naval bases, just because New Zealand is a pretty animal-friendly country.
Okay.
And kind of hand in hand with the illegal to harass penguins, I think that one seems a little bit more possible. But yeah, it's almost a toss-up. I just kind of, just ever so slightly, I'm going to go with that one.
So you think the sea lions is the other truth?
Yes.
Okay, Nate, you are correct.
Yes.
The New Zealanders did once try to train sea lions to protect underwater naval bases. The one that is a lie is the one about bat meat wrapped in seaweed and buried for 4 months before serving.
Okay. Yeah, that one seemed a little too bat meat crazy for me, so.
I don't know if I would try that, but I might. I don't know. If I was there and I was like, you know what, if Andrew Zimmerman can do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but I think I'd try it. I might not be the first at the table to eat it. I might wait for someone else to do it first, and then I might, join after I saw they don't croak.
Yeah, no, it's like having the poison tasters when you were like a Roman emperor. Yeah, and then one of my other guests who's been to Iceland says they serve like puffin burgers and puffin. He called them buffalo wings, but I think he made that up.
Okay.
But his wife would not allow him to eat a puffin because she said they're quote unquote too cute. But him and I both said, you know what? Yeah, they are cute, but I really still feel like I would try puffin if I was in Iceland.
I'm pretty open, food-wise. Yeah. I try most anything. I guess I would have problems eating something that I consider like a really intelligent and social animal, like dogs and horses. There's obviously some red lines. Puffins are cute, but I've eaten some other cute animals. I ate chewy, they call it, and I think it's essentially a guinea pig.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in Peru a few years back, they actually sell them roasted. They're like on a spit, with a spit going, through the length of their body, and they still have their heads and everything. So it looks horrifying. And I tried that. I just took a bite of the meat and tastes like any game sort of meat, like rabbit or something like that. So
okay, that I'm so jealous that you've been to Peru and New Zealand, and that you've been able to actually try something like that.
I recommend travel. I like seeing new things and meeting new people and eating food. So if ever people get the chance, they should.
Yeah, I'm just too broke. But I'll get there someday once this podcast gets sponsored by like iHeartRadio or something. I'll take some of that cash and go wander the Peruvian hills and eat guinea pig.
Yep, they'll bring you on location. You would go on location to do an episode with Peter Jackson someday, perhaps in New Zealand.
There you go. or our director of the film today, Mr.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi. Um, I gotta admit, I looked up how to pronounce his name properly, and there were several different. Like, well, if you're an American, this is probably how you'll pronounce it. If you're, so I'm sorry, folks, but I'm gonna probably just be the American guy and say Taika Waititi. And the aforementioned movie is, of course, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, directed by Mr. Waititi, and he based it on a 1986 novel called Wild Pork and Watercress by a New Zealand writer named Barry Crump. I dug into Mr. Crump's history a little bit. He passed away long before this film ever got made. Very popular writer of like autobiographical novels that were fiction, but a lot of his travels and stuff worked into them. Bit of a problematic fella.
Oh.
And some not very nice things came out about him after his death. So I'm going to let the audience go ahead and go down that rabbit hole if they want. But I would feel remiss if I didn't mention it. Anyway, I don't think that has anything to do with the movie because, like I said, he died several years before this even came to be. And apparently, this was a project of Waititi's. He originally adapted the book in 2005 and didn't get around to making the movie until about a decade later. It was released in 2017, as I've mentioned, and the budget was $2.5 million. And it grossed $23.2 million. So a very good return on investment. In fact, not counting international co-productions, it is still the highest grossing New Zealand film.
Wow.
So, yeah. It's a little interesting tidbit there. Mr. Waititi, I'll just give a brief because I want to ask you some things about him. But his first movie, other than he did some shorts, one of his shorts was nominated for an Oscar. He also did a film called Eagle versus Shark in 2007, starring Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords fame, who also co-created and co-wrote What We Do in the Shadows, which was his vampire pseudo-documentary film that came out in when was that? I don't remember, but it was like 2014, I think. Loved that movie.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it, and I love the TV show that's come from it. And then Wilderpeople, Hunt for the Wilderpeople came out in 2016. He followed that by Thor Ragnarok in 2017, which I have not seen. Then he released Jojo Rabbit in 2019, which was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and 1 Best Adapted Screenplay. And then after that, he released Thor, Love and Thunder, another movie I haven't seen because I have not seen nearly any of the Marvel films. What do you think of Mr. Waititi as a writer and director and actor? Because he actually has a small role in this film as well. Are you a fan or?
I am. I wouldn't consider myself like a super fan or a follower, like I've only seen a handful of his movies actually, and that is part of why I chose this one. So let me think. The first movie I saw of his was What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay.
And I love that as well. And then I think maybe it was Thor Ragnarok was the next movie that I saw from him. And I really liked that as well. I only recently saw Jojo Rabbit. I saw Thor Love and Thunder. I tend to see the big tentpole movies, when they come out in the summertime. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. So I've seen most of the Marvel movies. And
no such thing on this podcast.
And I like him as a writer, a director, and an actor. I like his sensibility. I like his humor.
Okay.
It doesn't mean I always like it, but I feel like he has an interesting and somewhat unique voice. He's kind of got this innocent / dumb humor. It kind of reminds me like if a 12-year-old kid were writing comedy that somehow worked,
Yeah.
is kind of what his stuff feels like oftentimes. And he often um, weaves in there some really poignant stuff too. So I think I like his storytelling.
Yeah.
And so I would consider myself a fan.
Okay. I agree with you. I think he has kind of a similar vibe, I think, to Wes Anderson, but I think his movies are have a little bit more heart and soul to them than Wes Anderson. I don't want to disparage Wes Anderson, and I don't really want to. We don't have to get too far into him, but I think they share that similar sort of. They're almost making like live action cartoons in a way, and they have that sort of boyish. I don't want to not naivete, but they definitely try to peel back the sort of warts and all of what it's like to grow up or what it's like to be in a certain profession or something. But I think in Waititi's case, I find his humor a lot more. I prefer it more. I think his movies generally tend to have a lot of heart. And like you said, they definitely sometimes seem like they came straight from the mind of a 12-year-old. Because, I mean, a 12-year-old would be like, fuck you, Adolf Hitler, and kick Hitler out the window, like in Jojo Rabbit. But at the same time, there's like a sort of darkness lingering around the corner or the edges of the story.
Yeah.
And he doesn't shy away from doing that. Although some people have criticized him for kind of making light of very serious subjects by taking that approach to it, that sort of whimsical, almost magic realist approach to it, namely with Jojo Rabbit. Although I absolutely adore Jojo Rabbit. I thought it was brilliant. But that's my sensibility. I'm not averse to finding humor in a dark place. I don't really think any subject's off limits to humor. But I don't know. Did you like Jojo Rabbit? You said you saw it. I didn't know what you thought of it. Or
Yeah, I like Jojo Rabbit a lot. Yeah, and I would say that people who have that issue with it that you were saying, I feel like maybe they misinterpreted it or didn't get it. I don't feel like he was making light of anything.
No.
I felt like that movie was very similar to Life is Beautiful, Roberto Benigni's movie from maybe 20 years ago, which also takes place during World War II, which obviously is a horrible context, but there is sweetness and humor that happen in both stories.
Yeah.
I don't think either try to discount the horror of the war at all.
No.
And I think that they do deal with it too. It's just that they're not they're not a war movie like Saving Private Ryan. They're not a super tearjerker drama either.
Yeah.
But I feel like they both treated the context, the subject matter with reverence. And so I disagree with that criticism for if people have it. And I really like Jojo Rabbit as well.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it was one of my favorite movies of that year. I just I didn't know what was you hear the premise and you're like, okay. And then it got nominated for all those Oscars and I'm like, okay, this might be interesting. And I knew it was from the guy that did What We Do in the Shadows, so I was like, oh man, this is going to be weird. And I just bought into it right away. Like I just got it. And anyway, so I guess my question for you then, I don't guess because it is my question for you. I ask it of every guest. Why did you choose Hunt for the Wilderpeople as your film to recommend to me for this podcast?
When you approached me, you gave me some direction as to what types of movies I might choose for this. And I decided to go the route of a movie that both of us had never seen before.
Oh, okay.
I had never seen this before. And since I am interested in Taika Waititi's movies. I've enjoyed the ones that I've seen, and I'm usually seek out more stuff from people like that. That was part of it. I also, in the interim from when you approached me to when I actually suggested this movie to you, I saw a clip from it on social media, which tends to be how I get a lot of my I won't call them ideas, but how I'm controlled a lot these days.
Right.
But I saw a clip from this movie, just a little scene between two of the characters, and I didn't know exactly what it was from. It was just a funny clip, and I recognized that the two had either Australian or Kiwi accents, and I did a search to see what movie it was, and I saw that it was from this movie. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, Taika Waititi. Oh, I've heard of this movie, but I've never seen it. So I was like, oh, why don't I do this one? Since that made me piqued my curiosity, and I gotta pick a movie. So let's watch this one, Ryan and I, and see what we think of it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you're the first person to do that, because usually it's a movie somebody's really passionate about, or, just wanted to get another take on it because it either emotionally devastated them or it pissed them off. For instance, listen to me and Hojo talking about Saltburn. if you want a guest that absolutely hated a film and wanted to share the misery.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet, so don't spoil it.
Oh, you might want to watch it first before you listen, because we definitely spoil the hell out of it. There's no way to discuss that movie without spoiling it, so caveat there. But yeah, I actually thought you'd seen it before. I don't know why. I just assumed, I guess.
No, I've got some surprising holes in my movie lexicon, and that's one of them. That's fairly recent still, but I've got like some old classics that I haven't seen that when people hear, they're shocked. So I haven't seen everything, that's for sure.
Well, either have I, and I've shocked a couple of people myself. But just as an aside here, what are two of them?
Let me see if I can think of any. I've been kind of filling in those gaps recently, so I can call to mind more quickly ones that I hadn't seen for the longest time and then finally did see.
Okay.
And at the same time, I'll keep trying to think of ones that I still haven't seen. But a huge one, Citizen Kane.
Oh, wow.
Did not see that movie until, well, I've been an adult for a long time, but I didn't see that movie. I only watched it for the first time in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I had to watch that I took a class at community college here in Grand Rapids in the early 90s, and it was called Film Viewing and Construction. And it was basically just two guys sat us down in a little theater every week and showed a movie. But it's a throwaway class. It was obviously just something. Most of the kids in the class were from the police academy nearby, and they could just use it as a throwaway class. There were very few people in it that actually wanted to learn about film viewing and construction, I being one of them. And it really opened my eyes up to a lot of movies that just were on my radar, but I never thought I would see, or that I would much less love. And that was one of them. They made us watch Citizen Kane. Right away, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty spectacular. And it opened my mind up to the whole idea, because up until then, I was definitely a genre guy. It was, I'm going to be a horror filmmaker. I only watch action and horror and sci-fi. And, I know Casablanca is a classic, but maybe I'll see it. Then when I saw it, I was like, holy shit. Like, this is a great film. Like, I get it. And so I will always appreciate that class, even though, again, it was a throwaway class. But it definitely inspired me to seek out more movies, and it really broadened my horizon. And so that's kind of weird that, but then again, I don't know. I know other people that have never seen it. So I guess that, have you seen Lawrence of Arabia?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another one that I didn't see until 10 to 15 years ago. So okay. I hadn't, I sought it out eventually, much like Citizen Kane, in having the thought, I'm aware of this classic movie that is just, highly, highly regarded by everyone, and I've never seen it. So just like Citizen Kane, I finally did make the effort and watched it. And I really like Lawrence of Arabia also.
Yeah, I love that movie so much. Lawrence was kind of a bastard, but I think the movie doesn't let him off the hook. So I think it's sort of unproblematic, other than some of the non-Arabic actors playing Arabs in it. But hey, it's a different time, as the kids say.
I thought of another one that's in the same category that I hadn't seen for the longest time and finally did see, and it's totally different, genre, totally different type of movie. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh,
I didn't see that until, it's probably at least 15 years ago that I finally did see it now. But like, I was already a bona fide movie fan by that point, and I was already working in, production at that point. So, some people might, challenge my film credos, or credentials rather, for that gap. But again, and all three of them have the same theme, that I saw them and loved them, because I love John Carpenter's The Thing, and it's possibly in my top 10 of all time,
okay, good. It better be. It better be. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's there's not too many gaps when it comes to the genre stuff for me. Because that was my diet for like at least the first couple decades of my life. But there, and I did a good job throughout the years of catching up, but like, you want me to shock you with one? I've never seen John Wick.
Oh,
none of them.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just haven't. That's the one that is always like, people are like, wait a minute, what? There's 4 of them now, and you haven't seen them? No, I just, I will. It's not like I won't. As this thesis of this podcast illustrates, I'm omnivorous. I'll watch anything. So,
that seems like less of a travesty to me than like mine, just because it's more recent, and I miss all sorts of recent movies, and sometimes it does take me a year or 5 years before I catch up, with some of them. So I feel, but Lawrence of Arabia, Citizen Kane are, almost a century old. Well, Citizen Kane, closing in on a century old. Lawrence of Arabia is, decades old, and The Thing is, a few decades old also.
Yeah.
So I had more time to have seen those, whereas John Wick, you've only had, 5-7 years. I forget when the first one came out. So it's more forgivable that you haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Well, thank you. But I still feel like it's a gap. I'll get caught up. That's one of those things where, like, I'll just watch all 4 in like one weekend, probably. So, but I've got to believe you've seen the all-time classic Friday the 13th 5, A New Beginning, correct? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's for a different guest. In fact, the previous episode that just aired, we spend an inordinate, perhaps illegal, an unholy amount of time talking about Friday the 13th 5. But anyway, so the Hunt for the Wilderpeople you had never seen. So what are your thoughts, like, just in general, what are your thoughts on it after having seen it? Were you, did you find it to be up there with the other films of his, or was this one better than, like, you don't have to, like, I hate like doing the top 5 lists or whatever of a director's career, but where do you place it in terms of his filmography based on what you've seen?
I liked it, first of all, but where I would place it of the movies I've seen is last.
Okay.
Not because I think that it's not good, or that it's lacking in quality of any sort. It's just that those other movies of his are movies that I would probably watch again and again, come back to more frequently. Whereas this one, I really liked it, but I don't imagine that I'd watch it over and over again. Whereas, What We Do in the Shadows is just hilarious. You can put that on at any time. You can, put it on with a friend, introduce someone new to it, type of thing. I mean, you can do that, I suppose, with this one too, if you want. But I feel like What We Do in the Shadows is better suited for that.
Oh, yeah.
same with Jojo Rabbit, although not because of the laugh out loud humor, although it does have that sort of thing. But Jojo Rabbit, I would watch again, again and again. So the rewatchability factor, I would say, is the only reason that I put this at the bottom of the handful of his movies that I've seen. Again, I haven't seen his whole catalog, so
right.
And it's not due to not enjoying it. It's just that if you're gonna make an order, one thing has to be at the end of that order. So that's how this happens. Yeah, I thought it was really enjoyable. I thought it was funny. I thought it was heartfelt. It was an interesting story, to watch. So no, check marks against it, by any means. It's just that I think that those other stories are a little bit more better suited for me as far as like to have on my shelf and then watch semi regularly type of thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that. Obviously Jojo Rabbit's got more of the gravitas to it. And then What We Do in the Shadows is just fun and silly. So this one is kind of in the middle. I guess that's something I always forget this part, Nate, is we should tell people what the movie's about.
That helps. Yeah.
Always fucking forget. Basically, I don't know. Do you want to do the? I usually have the guests do the honors. So,
sure.
Give it. What is this? What is the story this film is telling?
Well, it's the story of a foster kid. You're first introduced to this kid, Ricky Baker, getting settled in a new foster home with a woman named Bella and her husband, whose name is Hector, and they call him Heck. They live out in the country in New Zealand. Ricky Baker is more of an urban kid, at least that's what it seems like by his personality and certainly by his clothing, So it's a new situation. You're told by the Child Protective Services worker that he's gone from home to home. That woman, the child services worker, kind of views him. She actually says, and I think this movie's told in chapters, and the first chapter is a real bad egg.
Yeah.
And that's how she describes the kid, which is funny because all the transgressions that she describes of it, she like lists 10 things, and of those 10, maybe 3 are semi-serious, and like the rest are things that any kid does.
Yeah.
So he gets settled in, or he gets dropped off at this foster home. The woman, the wife of the couple, is very enthusiastic, loving, nurturing, and she's like all about it. Since he's been from home to home, he's, probably jaded. He actually tries running away, doesn't get very far. And then he comes back, and slowly this woman first, and then like the family just kind of win him over. And he eventually, decides that he likes living in this house with this couple. And then the woman, Bella, who's his foster mother, dies suddenly. And he's left with the foster father, who was not very, close at this thus far. He was kind of standoffish, and he kind of seemed like he just kind of agreed to this arrangement because his wife basically decides what their household does, and she's really into it, and his wife took care of him, and so he just went along with it. So anyways, Ricky is left with the man, Heck. And they don't. Heck is pretty walled off, and so it's suddenly a very new situation. And he's initially going to get sent back to child services, but then runs away. Heck himself has said that after his wife's death, he's kind of he has a history. It seems like his wife kind of settled him down. He used to be more of a, much more of a loner, and so he's very comfortable living in the wild, like in the bush, as they call it, the woods, the jungle of New Zealand. So yeah. He's already said that he's going to go off in the bush now. That's his plan after his wife died. So Ricky runs away, tries for a little while to survive in the wild with his ways that he's come up with, which are silly and not the right ways, and eventually runs into Heck out in the woods. And they initially are going to try to return him, but events conspire to make that to put some roadblocks in front of being able to return him, and they end up living in the woods together for a while. And by the time they get back to any sort of civilization, which is a hiker's hut that they come upon in the woods, they discover that the two of them being missing is like a big story, and like there's a manhunt for them.
Yeah.
And they, society, believes that Ricky's been kidnapped by this man, and there's this, so they eventually become on the run just because people are chasing them. So they're running away from these people chasing them. So it just kind of becomes this kind of, hunt, as the title says, for these two as they, keep walking, and living in the woods, for months. I think 5 months they end up being, out in the woods together. And the woman who is the child services worker kind of becomes like almost comically obsessed with like catching him, and and more people that they run into some hunters that have read the stories, and with that as their basis, and then due to some misunderstandings and conversations that they have when they stumble upon the Ricky and Heck, they think even more that Heck has kidnapped Ricky and is possibly, hurting him somehow.
Right.
So these, things snowball, and the two continue running, and then
and that's because what happens during this because they're completely oblivious to this fact that there's a manhunt, but at the same time they've also become like folk heroes. So for every person that wants to catch them and claim the reward, there's other people that are just like, yeah, we're behind you guys, and they bump into a guy at one, or the kid bumps into a girl at one point, and she takes him back to her house, and her older brother or dad, must be
I think
her
it's
dad. They're just like, oh, can I get a selfie with you, dude? Yeah, and they're like these little Bonnie and Clyde folk heroes that really they obviously didn't commit anything as criminal as Bonnie and Clyde, but it's got that kind of mentality to it where it's they just, half the nation is on their side, the other half isn't, and it's cute. And there's just some great things where, like you were mentioning before, the hunter's cabin, and then the hunter's there and they're asking if he's being treated okay, and he's saying things that he thinks are innocent, but to the adults it all sounds like he's basically being sex trafficked by Heck, and it's like he's not at all. Heck's a decent guy, but just it's that double entendre stuff where they're like, oh, did he say that? Yeah, and then he tried to make me do that, and it's like, and there's a cute moment later when Heck's like, did you not listen to what you were saying? And Ricky's like, oh, like, so yeah, Heck and Ricky have a really interesting rapport. And I think, the movie definitely deals with, I mean, would you say it kind of deals with the whole notion of found family? Like, where you're kind of cast off from other people, or you lose a loved one, and you sort of create a new family out of just what comes your way. Because that's kind of what I took from it, was not the whole movie, but I definitely think Heck and Ricky were, kind of building a little found family for each other because they had no one else anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And there's even with the two foster parents, you learn through the course of the movie that Bella, who had the foster mother who dies early, and Heck, the foster father, who is the companion through the movie, both of them came from I don't know if they were orphaned per se. Heck kind of alludes to his history, and he basically says that he was alone. He didn't really have anyone. And, Bella kind of took him in, settled him down type of thing. And Bella had talk to Ricky about, where she came from. And she's kind of like telling this nice story about this lake up in the mountains and stuff like that. And you learn late, and I forget exactly how Ricky asked maybe where her roots are or something like that.
Yeah.
So you assume that that's where she grew up, that's where her family's from. But later, when they're on their run from authorities, Ricky relays that to Heck, and Heck's like, no, he's like, Bella didn't have anybody. He's like, she grew up alone. And he's like, and that's why she takes in strays, is because she grew up without any family. He's like, that's why she took in me. That's why she took in you. So I'd say with all three of those characters, there's definitely that found family theme going on.
Yeah, because it's and Ricky is obsessed with. I would say he's a urban kid in New Zealand, but he's based his whole persona on American hip hop, like Tupac, stuff like that. Because I think when you first see him, he's wearing a Tupac shirt. Ricky, sometimes you just really hate the kid right away, even though you understand and sympathize that he's being shuffled through the foster care system and he's probably got a chip on his shoulder. But this kid, without showing my cards too early, I just immediately thought this kid was annoying but likable. Like, as an adult, he was annoying because he kept trying to run away and do this shit. But at the same time, he was just likable because there's a great scene towards the beginning, where the mom is, I think she's preparing like an animal that she just killed for them to eat. And he is sitting there he starts reciting these haikus. And this kid's whole thing is, whenever he's upset or he can't make sense of the world, he makes haikus about it. I don't know why. I just loved that touch.
I think someone who was overseeing him, either in an orphanage or like, I think he says that like they taught him that exercise, like as a sort of therapy or something. But yeah,
it's great. And it ties it comes around again later in the film in a fairly charming way. Do you think the movie tipped over into, because this is some criticism I've read online, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with this at this point in the conversation, but you as a viewer who's just watched it, do you think the film tipped over into sentimentality too much at times? Or do you think Waititi kept a good balance of humor, pathos, seriousness, ridiculousness? Or were there ever times when you felt like it may have gotten a little too saccharine? Or
no, I don't think for me that it ever did. I feel like it was pretty balanced. I feel like he really sprinkles in that sentimentality in a good portion. So I don't think that it was overdone at any point. At least it wasn't for me. And yeah, he does switch, moods, the beats of the story, between all those, different types that you were just listing. And I thought he did that pretty well, where there'll be like some serious stuff, and then, some funny stuff, and then, ridiculous stuff. And then, yeah. So no, I'd say it wasn't too sentimental at any point for me.
Yeah. That was just, some people have criticized not only this film for that, but his other stuff. And I don't know. I've gotten weird in my middle age, and I think you and I are about the same age. But neither of us look it.
No,
I'll have all of you know. But yeah, I as I've gotten a little older and moved into my middle age, I find myself sometimes wanting more sentimentality, and just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, especially if you're a fan of older films that, definitely played into that side of things more. Not so much a lot of sentimentality, but a lot of just sincerity that kind of gets mocked nowadays. in some older films. You can look at, for instance, the work of Frank Capra, with You Can't Take It With You, or It's a Wonderful Life, or films like that where, oh, that's hokey, that's cheesy, and there was certainly a time throughout my life where I've, you know, definitely let my inner cynicism come out and scoff at things like that. But yet I've found as I've gotten older, I kind of like it when movies get sincere and sentimental. I don't know if it's just me aging out of my cynicism, or because the world's such a bleak place right now that I try to balance my cynicism with that. I don't know. Is that something you found, or were you always a person that didn't shrug off sincerity and sentimentality?
Yeah. No, I think I maybe have always been more open to it than how you describe yourself. It's not something I need in a story. Like I like all sorts of stories, and I like plenty of stories that have awful endings, like awful as far as what happens in the story and to people characters you care about. I still like those movies as a story well told, even though I don't necessarily like what happens in them.
Right.
So I've never really had any requirements one way or the other, but I would say that I have, as far as I can remember, always been susceptible to sentimental stories.
Okay.
They've affected me for as long as I can remember, and it's not something that I didn't like at one point and then grew to like. I think I've always liked them. Some different types of stories might be stories that I've grown to like, but sentimental ones, no. I'd say I probably was always more open to sentimental stories.
Okay. So like it's kind of like the, Steven Spielberg, for instance, not counting like Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List or Munich, which are more of his darker things. But, we grew up with stuff like E.T. and Close Encounters, and even movies like Hook, and, I don't know. But, he definitely has always been a very sentimental director. He's never been somebody who, a lot of his movies, especially early, well, I don't even say early on, because Jaws is pretty brutal. He was never afraid to get sentimental in his movies. And I've seen a lot of people online nowadays kind of using that against him. Like, oh, here he goes again with a sentimental tale of a horse during World War I, and get out the tissues because Stevie's back doing that, as opposed to some of his darker compatriots of the time, like De Palma and even Coppola and stuff like that. And I just always liked all of it. Like, I never understood why people were like, well, I don't like that E.T. gets all sappy, and I'm like, what? Like, it just didn't matter to me. Like, I even loved the little moments in Temple of Doom when Short Round and Indy are, when Indy breaks out of his trance and Short Round's like, like, oh no, and he's like, I'm back, kid. And they, awesome. I love that shit. So I've never had a problem with that per se. I think I tried to pretend I did at certain points, because I wanted to be cool. And I mean, I don't know, you've read my stuff, you've worked on a couple of my movies, I'm not very much into the happy ending or the likable characters. So yeah, I definitely tend to lean darker, but I think it's always surprising to people when they find out that, yeah, I get a little teary-eyed watching It's a Wonderful Life. Like, I can be charmed by a movie like Silver Linings Playbook, or something like that. I'm not that cynical, I guess, but which is my way of saying that I didn't really feel like he dipped too much into sentimentality in this movie either. I agree with you. I think the line was pretty even to the whole thing. Like, every once in a while it might feel like it's going to tip in that direction, and then someone gets shot on accident, or they're making jokes about pedophilia, and it's just, okay, we're still in you know, I don't want to say dark, but we're still like, okay, this isn't too safe. As someone who is not really immersed in the whole Marvel MCU comic book thing, I don't have anything against them. It's just not my wheelhouse. And at this point, there's just too damn many of them. I wouldn't even know where to start. But the reason I bring it up for this is because he, Taika Waititi did, as we mentioned before, he did 2 of the Thor films. Now, as a fan of those movies, did you like his approach to those franchises, or did you feel he wasn't the right fit? Or I'd just be very curious, because outside of those Marvel movies, he seems kind of like an auteur. Like, he's definitely got a vision. He has themes he works with. He's definitely got a style and a voice. Was he able to translate that to Marvel films? Or
for me, I thought he did a good job. I will say, and I think this is a widely held opinion, Thor Ragnarok is much more enjoyable than Thor Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Thor Ragnarok was the first one that he did, and I remember hearing that Taika Waititi was doing the next Thor movie was surprising to a lot of people. He didn't seem like someone who would be doing a Marvel movie. And I would say those same people who would agree that with that last point, they would also agree that Thor Ragnarok is probably the best Thor movie out of the 4.
Okay.
And it was certainly a different take. You can tell that it's Taika Waititi. It's not totally, it still seems like a Marvel movie. It still seems like Thor. It's just a fresh new voice. And that was a movie where, like, it was great seeing it in a theater, because, when you laugh with an audience and, and react, cheer and all that sort of thing, that's a movie that elicits those sorts of reactions. And I thought Thor Ragnarok, his sensibilities worked really well for. Thor Love and Thunder, there was nothing really wrong with it. It was just more of the same.
Okay.
And I think, kind of as often happens, like, audiences like tend to turn on, they turn on people that they love, type of thing.
Oh yeah.
And I do also admit that they saw, like, the silliness that they added in Ragnarok. They were like, oh, well, this really works, so let's do more of it. And maybe they took it a little too far, or maybe didn't focus enough on the other stuff besides the silliness.
Okay.
In Love and Thunder, and that's why Love and Thunder isn't viewed as highly as Ragnarok. But I would say Thor Ragnarok is very good. I think you could probably watch that movie not having watched any other Marvel movie and still enjoy it, and not be lost or anything. I don't feel like there's a lot that you need to know going into it. I mean, you know who Thor is. I mean,
yeah, I have seen the first one. I saw the Kenneth Branagh Thor. I actually quite enjoyed it. I just, growing up, I was a comic book guy, but I was kind of way more into, like, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Indiana Jones, comics, and superhero comics were there, but I for some reason did not glom onto them like a lot of other people in my generation and after. Like, my younger brother Josh he knows all of them. Like, that's his thing. Like, I remember going to see the first X-Men movie with him, and we went for beers beforehand, and I was like, before we go into this movie, could you just explain the X-Men to me? And, like, he proceeded for the next hour to, like, fill me in on everything I needed to know. And because I liked seeing the movies, but back then it was a little more of a rarity. Like, I grew up in a time when we had like 4 Superman movies and that was it. And then a Batman movie. And so at first I was digging all this stuff. It was like, oh, cool. I loved the first 2 Spider-Mans. Those are great. And then, we got a Thor movie. Cool. And then we got this and that. And then next thing you know, it's like, well, shit, now I've got to watch 7 or 8 of these and a TV series in order to catch up. And I know that's exaggerating it, but yeah, Thor was one of the ones I liked. So someday I might go back to those. I did enjoy the hell out of James Gunn's Superman. Mostly because of Crypto, because I'm a dog guy. But I also loved the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I've never seen the other ones, but I love James Gunn. I've loved James Gunn ever since he worked for Troma. Like, I knew who he was back in the day. And so it's weird to me now that he's doing all these major franchise movies when he used to work for Troma. But his Troma movies are great. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but you answered my question. I think I just was curious if they let him be himself with this movie and didn't kind of try to rein him in, just so they could get the star director name, but not let them actually do what they do.
Yeah. I'm sure that there are guidelines and barriers that any director that signs on to a Marvel movie can't go outside of, but I think that they let him be himself within those parameters. And like, you can tell, like, I'm not a person that, like, when I see a movie, I'm like, that's a movie by this person. Like, I can't like pick them like that if I don't know. Sure. Like, I'm not, but like, you can tell that Taika Waititi's 2 Thor movies were made by him. If you've seen any other of his work, you're like, okay, yeah, those sound like his jokes. That's his, silliness and stuff like that. So, but at the same time, they're both still Marvel movies. So it's not like someone who's just a fan of Marvel movies would go see this and be like, what is this? Someone's messing with my Marvel. Yeah. I think it would satisfy both parties.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, one of these days, I've still never seen the newest Star Wars trilogy. Like, I still haven't watched Force Awakens or anything since.
Well, it's a good thing I didn't make my roast porg comparison earlier when we were talking about the puffins.
Oh, well, I might have gotten that. I know what the porgs are, but
yeah, there's a scene where they cook one of the cute little bird-like creatures that's, some Star Wars equivalent of a puffin type of bird.
Okay. And I would probably eat one. But I'd try Ewok, right? I mean, they eat us, which nobody ever talks about.
Yeah.
That they eat humans. But anyway, no, that's cool. I just I guess I am just curious about all this guy's stuff, because kind of like with James Gunn, he's just someone I like. So it's, and then when he goes, oh, now he's just going to be doing these superhero movies, I'm kind of like, oh man, that's not really my thing. But then I've learned to just give them a try, and I generally end up liking them. So I feel like this is similar with Waititi, that as a fan of his work, I should maybe give them a try. And I get to look at Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
So it's fine. We're good. All right. Well, I think, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up in your notes? Or
I guess I would touch a little bit on the serious parts that come in a little bit. There were serious parts, sprinkled in here and there, like kind of going back to what I was saying, at the very beginning of our conversation, where I feel like he does a nice mixture of things. It's not blink and you'll miss it, but there's, some dark and serious stuff mentioned in this that maybe if you're not paying attention, you'll go right past, type of thing. But and it also has to do with the foster kid, context of the story. There's a scene where I think the two are already out in the woods. I think they're by a campfire or something like that. And Ricky is talking to Heck about, what might happen to him, what his future is most likely to be, like if he goes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's telling a story about a friend that he had, another foster kid who he was in a group home with or something at some point. This girl named Amber, I think is her name. And he tells this story of Amber, and he just tells it. And it was a good scene in how it was written, and it was good in the kid's delivery. He tells it like a kid would, because he really didn't understand what happened. He's like, yeah, my friend Amber, she went to this foster home, and then she started telling stories about the dad, and then she was dead.
Yeah.
And she died. And it's like, he doesn't understand what happened. But if you think, you're like, oh my God, that is some dark shit that he is like, that happened to this little girl friend of his. He's like, that's a foster child horror story. So it does, broach the whole, not the only, but one of the many dark sides of, children, going from home to home and stuff like that, and that it doesn't always work out well.
Yeah, what I guess before we get to the big question, that's something we didn't even talk about, but casting wise, we got Sam Neill plays Heck. I'm not familiar with too many of the other members of the cast. We also have Julian Dennison stars as Ricky. Rima Tiwiata, if I'm pronouncing that right, she plays Belle, the mother, or Bella. Rachel House is Paula, the absolutely psychopathic child protective services woman. And then there's a few other little roles here and there, but that's kind of our main cast. And then Taika Waititi plays a priest who's doing the funeral for Bella after she dies. Might be one of my favorite awkward funeral scenes. In real life and in movies, I love awkward funerals. I've been at a few in real life. I hope mine is awkward. I just love an awkward funeral. So
yeah, his sermon is pretty great.
Like a sheep trapped in a maze designed by wolves. And you know that if you're ever in that situation, there are always two doors to choose from. And through the first door, it's easy to get through that door, and on the other side, waiting for you, are all the nummiest treats you can imagine. Fanta, Doritos, LMP, burger rings, Coke Zero. But you know what? There's also another door. Not the burger ring door, not the Fanta door. Another door that's harder to get through. Guess what's on the other side? Anyone want to take a guess?
Jesus?
You would think Jesus. I thought Jesus the first time I come across that door. It's not Jesus. It's another door. And guess what's on the other side of that door?
Jesus.
Jesus, yeah, Jesus. He's tricky like that, Jesus. So let us pray to Jesus, please, to make it a bit easier to get through those doors and to find you and your bounty of delicious confectionery.
It's good. So anyway, what do you think? Obviously Sam Neill is probably the biggest actor in this. He's a very famous Australian actor. And we all, everybody knows him from Jurassic Park. And I know him he is a New Zealand actor. I apologize. He's not from Australia. He's won numerous awards. He's never been nominated for an Oscar or won an Oscar, but he's been nominated for tons of other awards all over the world. I think he's got to be one of the most recognizable actors in the world right now, and has been for years, probably because of Jurassic Park. Although I knew him from Damien, The Final Conflict, where he plays Damien Thorne grown up. He's been in Event Horizon, In the Mouth of Madness, The Piano, just tons of movies. Are you a fan of him?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm not as big a fan as you are. Like I haven't seen as many of his works as you just listed off, but obviously Jurassic Park is where I first became familiar with him, like many. And then Event Horizon, and yeah, he just is one of those actors that after Jurassic Park, you're like, oh yeah, that guy, Sam Neill. Yeah, I know that guy. He's great, And I'd forgotten about The Piano. Yeah, that's another great one that he's in.
He's a bastard in that movie. He is not a good guy in The Piano, which is weird because it came out like the year after Jurassic Park. So if you've seen Jurassic Park and you loved him, go watch The Piano, because you are not going to like him.
Yeah, I guess he was looking for something, different after that. Didn't want to get typecast.
Right.
So.
Well, he did play the Antichrist in The Omen 3. So he's played them all, good guys, bad guys. Yeah, I've always loved him. I thought he was quite good in this. Like I loved how curmudgeonly he was, and he just couldn't stand the kid, wanted nothing to do with it. And their rapport. I don't really know much else of the Ricky's work. What was that? Julian Dennison, although apparently he's been in a lot. I just haven't seen any of it.
I first saw him in Deadpool 2. So I think that's the first time I'd ever seen him in something. And so I was like, who is this kid? So then when I saw that he was in this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the kid from Deadpool 2. Okay.
So you knew him ahead of time then. So that's...
I knew his face. Like I still, even though you just said it, I couldn't repeat his name to you yet. Like I don't know him by name yet, but...
Yeah, I thought he was quite good too. I just, like I said, he was annoying yet instantly likable. I think it's just because his ideas were so half-baked. Like when he runs away the second time, because after the, like I think you mentioned, after the mom dies, after Bella dies, and Heck says he's not gonna keep him around, he decides to really run away, and in doing so he tries to stage a suicide. Which is, I'm laughing because this is just where my sense of humor goes. He makes an absolutely terrible looking dummy of himself, leaves it in the barn, and then leaves a suicide note taped to the barn, and then burns the barn down.
Well, he doesn't intend to burn the barn down. He apparently doesn't realize by setting the dummy on fire that it's going to burn the barn down.
So I just like that immediately makes me like this kid. And just like when he gets caught running away the first time, and Bella's there when he wakes up, and she's like, "Oh, you didn't even make it 50 yards from the house." And he's like, "Ah." And it just, his attitude was like, I thought it, I liked it. I thought, like I said, like I would be annoyed by this kid in real life, but since in this movie he's someone else's problem, I'm gonna just, I find him amusing. And yeah, the Child Protective Services woman is just, she's almost like Cruella de Vil at times. Like she kind of becomes almost cartoonish at a point where she's like, I'm gonna get this kid. And like you said before, she rattles off all these crimes he's supposedly committed, and I think one was he just kicked something or knocked a trash can over or something. I
wrote it down.
Good.
Disobedience, stealing, spitting, running away, throwing rocks, kicking stuff, defacing stuff, burning stuff, loitering, and graffiti.
Yeah, it was the running away, kicking stuff. It's all like, okay, so he's a kid. Like it was just absolutely absurd. But she's so hell-bent on catching this kid. And because even at the end, her partner's like, okay, you're not even a real cop. It's over. And she's just like standing there like, yeah. Okay. I don't know.
All right, Ryan. So I guess I'll ask you at this point. So did I kill you or did I thrill you?
Nate, I will tell you what you did to me. I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. No lie. I loved it. Like, well, yeah, no, I safely say I loved it. A lot of times when I answer this question, I start out with the stuff I found negative about the movie. Just to be fair, because as I've often said, nothing is perfect. And I feel like if I just sit there and rave about it, then that might be mistaken for, me not thinking critically. So I will say the only thing about this movie that I didn't like, and it's not that I didn't like it, it's just I felt like the ending was a little too pat. It just sort of, after everything we'd seen, it just kind of wraps up. And, I guess I just felt I wanted maybe a little bit longer of a epilogue, which I know is counterintuitive because a lot of people hate epilogues. I don't. It's probably because I read Stephen King, and his epilogues are sometimes as long as novels. So, I'm cool with like maybe an extended, like, what happened at the trial? What happened? And it's just, this could also just be the writer in me, because that's the stuff I'd want to write. and then I'm sure the producer would tell me to take it out. So I don't know, maybe a lot of times with movies like this, the stuff I'm calling as negatives is on me and not necessarily the movie. So if I had to nitpick one thing about this, is I just thought the ending was a little too pat, and kind of predictable. But you know what? Overall, though, that's okay, because as I said earlier, I like a little bit of sentimentality, and I honestly loved these two together. Like, I thought Sam Neill and Julian, whatever his last name is, did a fantastic job. I kind of hate it whenever people say stuff like this, but their chemistry was really good as characters. I wish I could come up with another way of saying that, because that's really what you should say. It's just I've heard it so much that I'm always trying to think of another way to say that. But they played off of each other fantastically, and you could tell from the start that these two were meant to be like pseudo father and son, or pseudo uncle and nephew. Like, it's just that kind of picking on each other and constant, like, yeah, well, screw you, I'm going over here, and then 2 minutes later they're getting along again. Like, I don't know, just maybe it's because I'm like that with some of my best friends, where 1 minute we can't stand each other, but you know, we belong to each other because we're each other's assholes and nobody else will take us. So we've got to get along in this crazy world. I loved, just again, I think I mentioned it earlier, how every time it felt like it might slip into some of the tropes, it, you know, like I said, somebody would accidentally get shot, or some weird animal would show up, or he had to kill an animal to eat it, or and not to mention, god damn it, the whole scene with the dog, I was just not ready for.
Yeah.
My roommate Hojo always checks this website called Does the Dog Die before he watches any film. I'm not like that. I can usually take it because I do know these are fake. At least in modern movies, the animal didn't really get killed. I can't always say that about older movies I watch, or if they're from Italy or Germany. But, you know, I know how movies are made. I know that dog did, but god damn it, it was still like, no, because we recently lost our dog. So I'm always going to be a little bit upset when a beloved pet dies in a film. But the other dog was fine, and I like that they had dogs. I don't know why, but that just makes me happy. And that the whole shootout scene at the end was great. Guys with their guns, and they're just thinking they're going to take them down, and those guys were funny, although also annoying. But Sam Neill beats the shit out of him, so that was fun. And yeah, that funeral scene was hilarious. I like I said, I love the stage suicide. But yeah, so thanks. I mean, this was just a solid good movie. Like, I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't think it's an all-time classic, but maybe it is to some people. I can see why it was a big box office success. It's probably more accessible to general audiences than Jojo Rabbit or What We Do in the Shadows, because you kind of have to be into vampires and a little bit racier humor for that movie. I wouldn't show that to my mom. And I doubt Jojo Rabbit's not just a movie you can throw on when people come over, because, you know, it gets pretty dark in places.
Yeah.
But this one, I feel like you could show, just the whole family could sit down and.
Yeah, this is like a video store recommendation. Like back in the day when such things existed, if someone came in and said, "I'm looking for just a fun movie that, you know, just that I can enjoy," you know, this would be a movie that you'd recommend if you worked there.
For sure. Like if they were, specifically wanted something for our kids are a little older, we're gonna have a family movie night. We don't necessarily want to sit and watch Barney. So I don't know why I said Barney, because Barney was huge when I worked at a video store. But no, this was great. As a fan of Waititi's, I'm the same with you. I don't think I'd put this above the other two. But I still, so far, what I've seen of his, like I said, I love that. I love the What We Do in the Shadows TV show. Uh, I There was something else of his mentioned that I thought I had seen, but maybe not, because he's worked in collaboration with other people on screenplays, and I guess he directed some of the Mandalorian show, which
Yeah.
and he played a part in it, or he did a voice.
Yeah, he voices a character. It's a robot. And he also directed one, maybe 2 episodes. And I enjoyed those as well.
Yeah, so it seems like I'm definitely a fan of this guy, and I might check out some of his other stuff. And as a fan of Flight of the Conchords, I would probably watch his first film, Tiger versus Shark, because Jermaine's in that, and I just think Jermaine's funny.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I might go seek it out now.
Yeah, I mean, it's got really bad reviews. Like, people either really love it or they find it insufferable. So I don't know. I like the Conchords, and Jermaine won me over with. Have you ever seen the movie Gentlemen Broncos?
No, I'm aware of it, but I've never seen it.
Jermaine, it's about this kid who's a talent. Like, I think he's a junior high kid or something, and he's got an aptitude for writing. So they go off to a creative writing conference or camp, I guess, where, over the weekend, these kids get to go to a creative writing thing, and they get to talk to these famous writers, and they go to seminars and lectures. And Jermaine plays I forget the name of the writer, but he's a famous science fiction writer, and he's the star of the weekend. And he's just so ridiculous. If you've ever been to one of those as a kid, that he captures that. The director, Jared Hess, I think is his name, captures that so well, of what it's like to get shuffled off to one of those camps or those weekends or whatever, and just the way they talk to the kids. And but there's a great scene in it where he's trying to convince this girl that she shouldn't name her troll, the troll who's a main character in her fantasy story, should not be named Buttercup. And he is talking to them about, he calls it the power of the suffix, and how you got to add these weird suffixes to fantasy names, like Barolinus and John Shiner. It's just these absolutely ridiculous fantasy names. And so check that out. It's hilarious. He's just so funny in that, but he's an asshole in it too. But so yeah, Nate, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope you come back again sometime. I understand you're going to be pretty busy over the next couple of weeks or months, but we'll definitely get you back at some point, because you did give me a list of some. There were quite a few. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 others on your list that I hadn't seen.
Yeah, I kind of made an eclectic list. They were kind of all over the place, so
yeah,
gave you a lot of options.
Yeah, and now that you're here, Nate, why don't you tell everybody some of the projects you've been working on? And I know you worked on a film that is coming out with a friend of ours, Chris Randall, who's also going to be on the show coming up here.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, our movie, a short film that Chris wrote and directed, The Lost Dog, has just played for the first time, screened it in front of an audience, and now we are going to be submitting it to film festivals. It's kind of a fun little psychological horror movie, more scares than it is, it's not gory or anything like that, but more creepy.
Does the dog die?
I won't give it away. But
no, don't give it away. It'll be on the website.
So yeah, I got that one that's complete, and that's now out in the world. And then also with Chris Randall, he's given me a lot of work these days. I have just been announced to be producing the summer film project with Grand Valley State University, which Chris is also writing and directing this year. So that's a cool project where it's the students at Grand Valley. It's like the film students. It's the culmination of their schooling there, where seniors and some juniors, but towards the end of their studies, get to actually work on a real movie for, while they're still in school, see how real movies run, how they're made. There's professionals that guide it, myself being one and producing it, Chris being another, writing, directing it. We have a professional cinematographer, and then we also have a professional sound mixer. But besides that, all other positions are going to be filled by students.
That's great.
And so we teach them. We have about a month's worth of class sessions, and then we go into preparation for a short time, where we kind of finalize make sure we have everything procured, and then we start shooting, and we'll shoot 8 or 9 days in the end of July, and shoot another short film.
Nice.
So that's coming up.
No, that's great. I am very happy for you guys with that. You guys are, two of my favorite people to have worked with locally here in the biz, and I wish nothing but the best for you guys and continued success. And I'm happy that you guys get to keep doing it. I might be soon again. Just things are a little dry right now on my end in the industry, but got some. My business partners got a lot of what do they call it? Irons in the fire. So hopefully I get roped back in to that soon. Nate, thank you for coming on the show again. And it was a pleasure having you and seeing you. And I wish you the best of luck with the work you're going to be doing over the next couple of months. And I wish you best of luck on that summer film. And if you need a stupid guy to sit on camera and say lines and get stuff thrown at him, or stuff, you could cover me in mud, whatever, give me a call. I can't act, but I will do anything on camera within reason. So some directors love to hear that. Our friend Jason Roth, I first said that to him on a set, and the gleam in his eye instilled fear in my heart. But it's true.
I bet.
I cannot act, but I will do anything. But yeah, it's always great to talk to you, and I hope we get to do it again soon. So nothing but the best for you, man. And thanks for the good movie.
Yeah, well, thank you. I had a lot of fun being here.
If you enjoyed this program, you should totally follow it online.
Oh, yeah. Now you're talking.
So where are you?
Go to Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and YouTube.
Cool.
And search for Cinema Milkshake.
Do it. We'll give it a whirl. Why not?
And
Like, follow, share, and leave feedback.
you tell the world.
You certainly don't have to, but it would be a whole lot cooler if you did.
Believe that shit. Word.
Oh, that's good.
Until next time, don't let the bastards grind you down.
Listen, don't get prancy with me, kiddo.
Keep watching movies.
Dude, that movie was fucking sweet. Ain't bet your fucking ass it was.
And, most importantly, dear listeners,
What's up?
enjoy every milkshake.
I feel like something incredible is really gonna happen here.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
I'm disgusted and repulsed, and I can't look away.
What is this? Some kind of a joke?
Some sort, yes.
Bravo!
You're mocking me, aren't you?
How dare you?
Do you know anything about the art of film production?
Well, I like to think so.
Direction, the acting, the storyline, that shit was bad.
Wow.
That was fucking trippy.
Yeah, boy.
What did you think?
I can't talk about it anymore. It's giving me a headache.
Why don't you knock it off with them negative waves?
That's part of your problem, you know. You haven't seen enough movies. All of life's riddles are answered in the movies.
I had enough. I give up. I want to go home.
By the by, what became of the baby?
It turned into a pig.
I thought it would.